call to order and the roll call. Carrie? Still not on? Okay, Joe?
Joe Coletti, Hebron.
Gabe?
Gabe Mark Hebron.
Eric?
Eric Shevchenko, Andover.
Great. Mike?
Mike Karen Hebron.
Dr. Benson Clark?
Judy Benson, Clark, Marlboro.
Mary?
Mary Kuchevsky, Marlboro.
Sue?
Sue Stolfi, Marlboro.
Great. Heather?
Heather Summer, Hebron.
Great. Thank you. And Mike Morris, Hebron. Just one more check. Did Carrie join? No? Okay. All right. If I could, I'm sorry. Actually, Dan? Just roll call, just your name.
Dan Trudeau, RHAM Athletic Director.
Virgil? Penny?
Penny Briscoe, high school principal.
Mike?
Mike Mastrucci, middle school principal.
Great. And Colin?
Colin McNamara, Superintendent.
And Eva?
Eva Gallup, business manager for Regional School District.
Great, thank you. All right, if we could all rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
States of America.
to the republic for which it stands,
Which stands
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, one quick note on the agenda. Unfortunately, the numbering system got a little skewed. And so if you look at it, you'll see that there are 2 3s represented on the agenda item. So for the purposes of clarity going forward, item number 3, the election of the BOE treasurer will be item number 3. And then the public comments, which is the next item, will be 4. The add and delete agenda items will be 5, and so on throughout the meeting. So our last agenda item is actually agenda item 15, which is the adjournment. And every other item after item number 3 is +1. All right. Okay. So item number 3, with the resignation of Lori Blake, we do not have a treasurer for the Board of Education. So what I would like to do is entertain a motion to elect or nominate and elect a treasurer. Absent any motions, I'd make a motion to elect Joe Coletti as the treasurer for the Board of Education. Eric seconds that. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have a discussion, but we'll also entertain any other motions so that if we need to do more than one vote to ensure that we give everybody a fair opportunity, we'll do that. Are there any other motions to elect a treasurer?
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
A procedural question?
Sure.
Yeah, I would just like to know if there's anyone else interested in holding the role, and if Mr. Coletti is interested in holding the role.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I'm interested.
Okay. All right. So Joe is interested. Is there anyone else interested in holding the role of treasurer? Okay. Any discussion?
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Mike, for doing it that way. I just want to make sure we include anybody who might be interested.
Absolutely. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. And congratulations and thank you, Joe, for stepping up to serve as the Board of Education treasurer. All right, at this point, we'll move on to item number 4, public comments. If you'll bear with me one moment, I have a quick blurb to read. Hebron, Andover, and Marlboro community engagement and attendance at Board of Education public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the Board of Education may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the BOE, or the Board of Education, is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the Board of Education is not permitted to engage in the discussion of the comments presented. At this time, is there anyone present that would like to provide comment? Okay, hearing none. There's no one present in the room. Is there anyone online that would like to present public comment? If so, either just make it known verbally, or you can raise your hand digitally. Anyone here? Okay, at this time, there is no one that is here for public comment at this time. So we'll move on to item number 5, add and delete agenda items. Are there any motions for adding or deleting agenda items?
I wonder if we should talk a little bit more about the STIF program, which is the short-term investment fund. We talked about it 2 meetings ago.
That's a great point.
And Scott had sent out some additional information.
Okay.
I'm not proposing that I make a motion on yes or no, but it might be worth discussing it.
Well, I guess the question I would have is, Eva, are you prepared to talk about that at all tonight or not?
So I would have to refresh my memory as to what Scott had sent out. But at this time, interest rates are going up. So it's just a matter of, again, the climate of the Board of Education and how you guys feel about wanting to pursue investing.
Well, why don't we go ahead and if you want to make the motion, we can make the motion. Otherwise, I think you're right. I do think we should talk about it. I'm not sure if tonight having it as an impromptu added agenda item, because I'm not sure if we're prepared completely to talk about it.
I'm happy to defer until next meeting.
Okay. Why don't I just open that up to the board members real quick? Anybody have any heartache with that? I mean, I do agree with Eric that we should revisit that short-term investment discussion that we had before the summer. I'm just not sure if tonight is the right time to do it in an impromptu matter. Feels like it's again one of those things that we decided we needed quite a bit of information.
This is Judy, and I completely agree with what everybody is saying. I would request, though, whether that's under the board chair's time, if he could allot time for maybe Eric and Eva to just bring us just to provide as much information as is available now so that we keep doing our homework towards this.
Yeah, you mean in subsequent meetings or tonight?
No, I meant tonight, not for a vote, but as under possibly, Mike, under your report, just to allow Eric time to speak to it and Eva, and we know that they may not have full records, and that's fine. If it's 2 minutes, that's fine, or but just to even tell us what they would plan to get for next time, because I do know what we're talking about, but we actually we're lucky to have a new member, so I just think it'd be good for that kind of historical overview if you'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, I agree. During the chairman's report, I'll definitely create some time just to revisit that. And if nothing else, just bring everybody up to speed on what we talked about the last time, and then just make whatever preparations for discussion next time around.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Eric, does that cover the bill? Okay. Any other addition or deletion agenda items? Okay. All right. We'll move on to item number 6, board chair report. So first of all, I want to welcome, it's a little bit premature, but it's not too far away. We've got some new RHAM parents, new RHAM students, new RHAM staff. So, from the board, definitely welcome everybody and appreciate having you here, and looking forward to a great new year. One of the premier folks that I'd like to thank to getting us to the point where we're ready to open up the schools. Everybody's putting a lot of time in, but I know this is specifically a very busy time for the maintenance and the custodial staff. They basically get the summer to put the place back together again and get it ready for everybody. And I've been told, and I've seen in my own, with my own visits to the school in the area, that they've been working very, very hard. Truly appreciate all the time and energy and effort that you put into making us ready physically to come back to the class. Staying with the staff of both schools, truly appreciate their preparation work to make it so that we are ready for a successful 2022-23 year. And can't say enough about how much I appreciate having all of you come back ready to jump in. I also want to welcome Heather Summer as our newly appointed board member from the town of Hebron. Thank you, Heather, for being here. Appreciate you. I'm glad you came in. You jumped right in. I think you were appointed on Thursday and you're at a meeting on Monday. It's awesome. Appreciate the enthusiasm. If you have anything that you wanted to say to anybody, to the board or the group, please feel free.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited about it. My kids, Sydney just graduated last year and Jordan's coming into the high school this year. So I think it's just a great way for me to stay involved with the schools and in the town, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. Glad to have you. Okay, I think the last thing that I would like to talk about is we left off at the last report, or I wouldn't say left off, but one of the major items that we discussed in the last meeting was safety and security. And, we've had 2 months now of time to pass. And I want to reassure everybody in the towns, within the staffs, and certainly the parents and the students that has not lessened in our view at all. I mean, the same critical circumstances that came unfortunately at the end of last school year in Texas are still fresh in everybody's minds. And it is definitely something that is not lost on the administration here nor the board. And the same guarantees that we gave that we would put and dedicate the appropriate time and energy into ensuring that we provide the safest, most secure environment that we can here for the students and the staff and everybody is still one of our strongest priorities. And then to that effect, I would only ask that, look, this is safety and security are only as good as everybody remains vigilant. And it's very easy to get complacent. It's human to get complacent. And I think that, we all have to kind of remind each other and remind ourselves that if you see something, say something, and not to walk by a deficiency. And it's really not about, it's definitely about holding each other accountable, but not from the perspective of gotcha. It's about trying to keep each other safe. And so in the best interest of everybody, if we work together and try to pick each other up when we get complacent, which is human nature, that we'll definitely have a more secure and safe environment. And I would appreciate the students, the staff, parents, everybody involved to help us create that environment by being vigilant. At this point, the last thing to Eric's point, what we had discussed, just to bring Heather and anybody else up to speed, at the end of last year, there was some opportunity to entertain some investing with money that we have essentially sitting in accounts that are dedicated or identified for future use, but maybe not necessarily available for use at this point because we're either working on contracts or we're working on the timing isn't right yet for that to use the money. And so the administration brought up specifically the idea of doing what other boards do in the state, which is do short-term investments with that money so that we can put it to work a little bit and hopefully create new opportunities for improving the school. So with that, I probably butchered that pretty significantly, but I'll turn it over to Colin and Eva and certainly Eric is our resident financial expert. If you want to add in and just maybe bring people up to speed on what we talked about.
So basically, the STIF account or short-term investment account that we were looking into depositing or investing some money into would be run by the state of Connecticut. The state of Connecticut has a very high rating for their managing of that program. Unfortunately, the last that the board wanted was for me to get some prospectus information so that you guys can make a better educated decision. And unfortunately, to this time, I have still yet to receive any of that information. So I'm not sure if the state of Connecticut is investor relations savvy in that regard. But so that's something between now and the next board meeting. I will definitely find a way to either get some more information for you all so that we can have a better discussion in that regard. If not, then let option B and figure out a better way of trying to get some kind of information for you to review.
Colin, did you have anything about that? Eric, did you?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this matter. I've thought a little bit about it. And I think what we'd be addressing here is, just as Mike said, there's some money that we have that we intend to spend, but will not spend immediately. And I think there are two valid ways of looking at what you do. One would be you don't put any risk on that money whatsoever because it's taxpayer money, and we don't want to ever be in a position where we're losing even a very small percentage of money that's been given to us for the school budget. On the other hand, the other valid way, I think, to look at it is that we are in an inflationary time. And when that happens, if money sits in an account without making any interest, then the value goes down as we move forward in time. So we had a couple of questions for Scott 2 meetings ago. He sent out some helpful links, and in reviewing those, the STIF program, which is an acronym STI for short-term investment fund, it seems to me is intended for this predicament that we have. It doesn't pay a lot. It's not like investing in the stock market or even investing in your average bonds. Very conservative, but there is some risk associated with it. To counter that risk, they have set aside a reserve fund so that if the accounts went negative very slightly, that could be backfilled by a reserve. So it seems to me that the STIF system is set up for the type of situation that we have. I personally do not have strong feelings that we either go with it or not go with it. Either is fine with me, and I think that maybe it's something for discussion, next time around. The 5-year return, if I understood it properly, is 1.12%. And that's much, much better than your savings account, which is probably 0.05 or something, something terrible. But it's also remaining quite conservative, where a lot of bond funds are in that 3%. So that's all I really have for tonight. The email that Scott sent out that has a number of links, I think are very useful and informative. And the next person who reads that will know just as much as I do. And I think it'd be, a worthwhile discussion for us to have in a month to see which way we go. And if I have misspoken in any way.
Maybe it would be helpful to share those links out again too. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else from the board? Okay, we'll definitely look to lean into that as a specific item for next month's agenda. Okay, that concludes my report. The item 7, the report of the superintendent.
Great, thank you very much. So I just also want to echo this thanks and recognition that Mike gave to the 12-month employees, the custodians, the maintainers, the administrators, clerical staff, secretarial staff, business office, certainly for all the work that they've been doing to close out last school year and get ready for this one. It is, as you said, it's a big undertaking. So it's definitely good and appreciated. I also want to echo my welcome to Heather. Heather, I look forward to working with you and meeting with you hopefully sometime in the coming weeks. Just a few items to update the board on. The first one relates to transportation. Similar to last year, the driver shortage that is forcing bus companies for each of our 3 towns to operate with less buses than in a typical year or a normal year. Therefore, the number of bus runs will be the same as last year. The good news is we're used to it, right? We're used to running with less buses, and we've got the runs ironed out so that families should not be impacted. However, that bus driver shortage is also impacting the ability of the bus company to procure substitute bus drivers. So really the only time that families should be impacted by any type of transportation issue is going to be when there is one of our typical regular drivers is absent. And when that happens, families will be communicated with as soon as we are made aware of it. I will also take this as an opportunity to plug the idea of stepping in. If you know of people who might be interested in stepping in and serving as regular bus drivers or substitute bus drivers, I am quite confident that Eva can get their names if you want to share them with us or have them communicate with us. I really do think that, community members stepping up in times when we're having positions that are difficult to fill, whether it's cafeteria workers, whether it's custodial staff, whether it's paraprofessionals, those non-certified positions are the bread and butter of what we need to do as a school district. And we as a school can't function unless the kids can be here and all their needs are being met. So I truly mean it. If there are people out in the public who are interested in potentially coming to work for us, certainly reach out to the central office and we would be happy to talk with you about that. So the other item that I wanted to touch base with everybody about is the COVID-19 reopening. So the administrative team and I sat down actually today and spent a significant portion of time talking about how we need to and how we can operationalize the guidance that has been provided to us by the Connecticut State Department of Education, the Department of Health, as well as the Office of Early Childhood. So the guidance is called Launching into Healthy Learning. It is in your board packets for you to refer to. And I just kind of want to talk at a very high level about how we're going to operationalize that guidance within the context of the start of the 22-23 school year. Home testing is one of the things that is being promoted. We actually still have a significant number of test kits left over from last school year. Many of them, the CDC has actually extended the expiration date, which is good. So we've got approximately a little over 2,000 kits, I believe, here in-house. And from what we were told by the state of Connecticut in a conference call that we had the other day, is the state has ordered enough test kits, additional test kits, for basically 2 additional test kits to be provided to every student and every staff member within every district across the state of Connecticut. So what we're going to do is keep an eye on seeing if the CDC extends the shelf life and the expiration date of those test kits that we already have in house. We're going to work to order new test kits as we feel that they are necessary, and continue to make those test kits available for families. There's a lot of changes, primarily focused on trying to have students and staff at work, right? And students and staff in school. So it's a movement in the in a good direction. COVID is not going away, right? COVID's here. We need to now learn to live with the pandemic or live with the virus as opposed to trying to avoid it or negate it. We're finding that that's just not a realistic thing. So we understand that people are going to continue to be symptomatic. People are going to continue to test positive for COVID. So the guidelines that we have and the guidelines that we're asking of parents and staff is individual with any COVID-19 symptoms should test prior to coming to school or work. If testing results are positive, individuals should report that information to the school nurse's office and isolate per CDC guidelines. It's pretty simple. The date of the positive test result or the date of symptom onset is day 0, and then it's a 5-day isolation period. And then if the person has improving symptoms and has been fever-free for 24 hours, they can return to work or school. It is recommended that people from day 6 to day 10 come in and choose to mask. Right, that's a recommendation that's coming from the Department of Public Health and Connecticut as well. If a person is mildly symptomatic and they test negative, they are allowed to come to work or come to school. Again, it is recommended that in those situations, as long as the symptoms are mild symptoms, not inclusive of a fever, individuals can come to work and come to school. It's recommended that those individuals mask, but there's no reporting obligations when it comes to that. Individuals with, and this is something that has been in existence for years, which is if you have a fever, you should not come to school, right? So individuals who who have a fever but still test negative for COVID should continue to remain home because that's an expectation that we would have had pre-pandemic anyways. Masking is generally optional for students and staff. And the reason I say generally is because of the fact that we're going into the school year thinking masking is optional, right? It's if people have a level of comfort by continuing to wear masks, and we certainly encourage and want people to have that level of comfort and continue to wear masks. It is recommended, as I said earlier, for people returning after completing a 5-day quarantine. The caveat to the generally speaking is if we see either community levels in our area identified as being inordinately high, or if there is a COVID outbreak associated with the school, what we would do as a school district is we would consult with, the same thing that we've been doing. We'd consult with the Chatham Health District, we communicate with them and figure out, are there additional mitigation strategies that are not currently in place that we could continue or we could consider putting into place. But again, that's what we've been doing all along. In fact, this afternoon before I came to this meeting, I shared all of these things that the administrative team and I did with the director of health from the Chatham Health District, and he applauded us for the work that we did in putting this plan together. As far as masks, we also have an ample supply of masks that we can make available to students and staff as well. Communication, I think, is really an important thing for this. We last year implemented, I believe it was last year that it was implemented, a COVID dashboard to identify the number of positive COVID cases within the RHAM community. We're going to continue with that. There was a high degree of detail with the last one, but there were things like quarantining because of a close contact in school and quarantining because of a close contact outside of school. Well, one of the things we know is really that's not in existence anymore. We don't have a situation where if I'm a non-vaccinated person or an unvaccinated person and I become a close contact, last year I might have had to have quarantined. That's not an expectation anymore. As long as a person is asymptomatic, they're free to come and go as they please. So our COVID dashboard is going to look a little differently, but it's important for us to communicate the number of positive cases we have both at the middle school and at the high school. And that's what the dashboard. That will be updated weekly that'll be updated weekly, I believe, on Wednesdays. We also are continuing to be required by the state of Connecticut that all positive COVID cases that are reported to us are also reported to the state of Connecticut as well. That concludes the information that I have about kind of the operationalization of the guidance. I can certainly entertain any questions.
I think there's a couple questions online. Who do we have up? Sue, go ahead.
Yep, I have a question. COVID obviously brought out tons of emails. So hearing that you're going to continue to send those weekly dashboards, I just would love us just to be a little bit mindful of all of the emails that the parents do receive. I'm a parent myself, lots of emails. And the dashboard, this is just my personal opinion, not directing this to anyone. Those, understanding who has COVID and who doesn't really doesn't do much for me as a parent. But I'm just saying we probably should just be mindful on all of the emails and possibly try to cut back a little bit from the whole COVID emails, because it was a lot of emails that we received.
And I can as a parent of 2 high school graduates that just graduated, I completely understand and concur with the inundation of communication around this topic. I don't know what the practice was, and I'm getting some shakes of my administrators' heads. So we do not intend to send out any type of communication every time there is a positive COVID case. We're largely saying parents and families in the RHAM community, if you are interested in learning about the number of positive COVID cases that are currently existing in the RHAM community, it's up to you to go to the dashboard, which will be on our website, and you can find that information out.
Excellent. So it'll be on a dashboard and the parents could go out there and take a look at it if they want to.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank you for hearing me
You're
out.
welcome. Absolutely.
That it, Eric? Okay.
could I just say one other thing?
Yeah, please.
I apologize. The one other thing I just want to say is I'm super excited because this week we are going to be welcoming 10 new certified staff members to Regional School District number 8. Which is, it's like go time for us. We're super excited about it. So we have approximately 10 new staff members that we're going to be welcoming at our new teacher orientation. We're going to be welcoming back all of our certified and non-certified staff on Monday, the 29th at our convocation and our 3 days of professional development. And most importantly, we are excited because of the fact that on September 1st, we're welcoming our students back. And I think I can speak on behalf of the administrative team when I say that, like we're excited to get the kids back in the building and to staff the building. The energy is palpable when they come back. So we're excited for that. That's it.
Great. Okay, that moves us on to item number 8, the consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to be made to approve the minutes from the June 20th, 2022 and July 28th, 2022 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Sue. Is there a second?
Second.
Eric, thank you. Do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. The second motion, entertain a motion to be made to approve the resignation letters from Caitlin LaPenta, Kayla Gervino, Janice Cole, and Oliver Sane. I hope I said those names right. I apologize if I did not. Is there a motion? We'll discuss them, but I just want to make sure there's a motion.
Good.
Gabe, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, as part of discussion, I would ask if there's any comments from the superintendent.
Sure. Yeah, no, these are 4 resignations that one of them has been an employee of the district for a long time and ultimately just decided that the time was right for her to step away and retire. Some other people are leaving one other person's leaving for an opportunity outside of the teaching profession. They've just made a career decision to go outside of teaching. Another person is moving to a district that's a little closer to home. And another person is to stay at home with their child, I believe. And I would certainly encourage the board to approve the resignation letters.
Okay, any other comments?
Do
Eric?
we have we know what they were teaching?
Yes. Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. Caitlin was a math teacher. Kayla was a social studies teacher. They're testing me. Janice was the library media specialist, and Olivier was a French teacher.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or discussion?
I have a comment.
Sure, go ahead, Mike.
I'm just curious, what are we doing to either find replacements or to fill those roles? I'd just like to hear a little bit about what we can do to try to make sure that people aren't taxed too much.
Sure.
Relative to backfilling.
It's a great question. Well, that's really a 2-pronged question, right? So I'll take the first part first, which is what are we doing to fill these roles? Well, I can tell you that the administrators here have been working feverishly doing interviews. We have, I think there was a situation where we had an applicant on like a Monday afternoon, and I think Penny brought that person in, I think Tuesday morning. Like we are feverishly working to make sure that we are fully staffed by the start of the school year. We currently have one position, I believe, that still has yet to be staffed from a full-time certified position. And we are working to fill that. What I could tell you is that I was in a meeting today with area superintendents, and I feel like actually we're fortunate. And the reason I say that is because there's a number of school districts that are starting the school year not fully staffed. This is the issue with teachers leaving and teachers making a kind of a last minute decision to even leave. Is something that school districts are facing across the region and the state. And I think, we're going to continue to work to, RHAM has a great reputation. I mean, I've certainly known about RHAM for a long time. And so I think that we have the ability to recruit teachers. The unfortunate thing is when we recruit teachers, they're often from neighboring school districts, which puts those school districts at a disadvantage. And sometimes those situations are reversed. As far as what we can do to make the district a more appealing place to come and stay, I think that we have to make sure that our wages are competitive. I think that's a critically important thing. And I look at our union president for the teachers, and I think he would agree with that as well. I think that we need to make sure that we take care of our teachers. We've been talking a lot about how students have been, their social and emotional well-being and mental well-being has been affected by the past 2.5 years. And I think that there are absolutely adults that are having that same, that are feeling that same impact. And I think, what we've talked a lot about is just making sure that we're there for our teachers. We're there to support them. We're there to make sure that, we can be a resource to them when they're struggling. Because really that's what it's about. People will come to this district and stay in this district if it's a desirable place to work and live. So I think that that's something that we're constantly striving to do.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll have a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the resignation letters? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Which brings us to the next item. I'll entertain a motion to be made to approve the year-long unpaid leave of absence for Molly Zelinski.
So moved.
Okay, Mike? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. Discussion.
So, similar, I'm excited for Molly. It's an opportunity for her to stay home and be a mom. And I think that anytime a family has the opportunity to be able to make that financial decision, I'm in full support of it. You got one shot at being a parent, and this is a fantastic opportunity for her. I will say, just for context, we were extremely fortunate to identify a long-term sub who's going to step into this role for the duration of the 22-23 school year. So that certainly softens the blow.
Great. So I'm going to make a plug here and just say that I'm really sorry to see that she's not going to be here for a year, although I completely understand why, because she happens to be my son's guidance counselor and she's fantastic and she gets him. So we're all sort of, the Morris house, we're all sort of sorry to see her not be here for a year, but completely understand why she would and wish her well in that year, if that's what ends up happening. So, okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 8, old business. There is none. If we do a quick time check, we are doing pretty good today. Move on to, I'm sorry, that was item 9. We'll move on to item 10, which is new business, and 9.1, the financials.
Okay, so in your packet, they're labeled as 9.1, as not to confuse anybody any further. But so basically what I've been spending my summer on is trying to work towards the completion of the end of year report for the state of Connecticut that has a statutorial fine and deadline of September 1st. I guess I'm going to say that the new superintendent was my good luck charm because it all sort of fell into place and we were able to certify it on August 16th.
Wow, great.
So as part of that, it's the figures I'm going to give you are unaudited. So we are in the middle of an audit. Our financial audit is happening at the same time as everything else is happening to solidify year-end expenditures and amounts remaining. So based on everything that's been spent and or remaining to be spent, I'm projecting a net favorable position, again, it's unaudited, of $1,467,741. We had a shortfall in revenue, and so we take the $341,202, and we get a net revised favorable position of $1,126,539. Because of COVID and or the stressors and or, so normally we look at student movement as a positive thing, but it compounded to not having drivers, staff movement in terms of resignations and hiring people anew or not having the staff members. All of that is compounded here, and the total of $813,733 is what I've identified for you that are normally not items that we would have in a non-pandemic year. So I'm assuming moving forward, we're gonna self-correct a little bit. However, we still have the driver shortage. So hopefully this year will be a little bit closer in what we projected out for budget figures. Again, the main driver for revenue shortfall was the excess cost reimbursement because of the prior year's COVID adjustment for lower expenditures than were anticipated because we didn't transport the high cost special needs students. Again, a lot was done remotely. In addition to Medicaid reimbursement was a little bit shorter or smaller than anticipated. And of course, interest rates were a lot less than anticipated. Based upon what I'm projecting, statutorily, we're allowed to carry 2% over for the budget. So that would be put into capital non-recurring. So that's estimated at $607,027. The remainder of that, $519,512 would go back to a credit offset for the 23-24 budgetary period to the 3 towns. And again, that's divvied up by enrollment that was in place for this school year. So it's given back in the same percentage that they were charged. So moving on, so Capital Improvement Fund has an unaudited net favorable position of $141,790. The HVAC project is not finalized because of a water balancing test that needs to happen. And until the heating season begins, we can't test that. So we just have to be a little patient. I'm not looking forward to cold temperatures, but would like it to be finished. The capital non-recurring fund. So this is what started the stiff conversation for our new board member. We have currently $733,005 in that. Most of it is earmarked for the field improvements that need to be done for drainage purposes. We are currently in the process of working with a consultant who is studying the soil composition. And we just haven't had a chance to reconnect so that we can get all that information put into a concise, complete way that we can share it back to the board. And plus, over the summer, we don't have our facility subcommittee meetings. So now that we're starting back up again, it'll be in full flow again, and we'll be moving forward on trying to get everything finalized and have a better plan for what's going to happen with the money and how much we can do with whatever the money is. And most of the savings in pupil services was due to student movement. We had 3 students that were high cost students that did not come to fruition during the school year. Are there any questions based on the information that I presented?
Just one quick question. So the return to the towns, is that still in keeping with what we had originally? Yeah,
That happened.
no, no change as far as, okay. Good.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Eva.
Yeah, thank you.
So hearing none, we'll go on to the RHAM Middle and High School, which is 9.1B in your packet. So basically, everything balances with the bank, which is a lovely place to be. We just sort of wanted to point out the interest rate on this. So the interest rate we started off the year with $54.58, and we ended with $256.07. For the majority of the time, we had approximately $200,000 in the bank. So this interest is a tough place to be. Are there any questions on the athletics? Oh, goodness gracious, student activity accounts. Okay, so hearing none, we'll go on to food service, which is 9.1C in your packet. So again, this information is unaudited, but we did a lovely job of being able to get back to the black and run into a positive area. As you may or may not have heard, the district has been awarded or is being given $181,388.72 for this coming school year, so that we can transition families from the free meals that were happening last school year to back into paying for this school year. This money will last till approximately November. So as we're going to be communicating with families, that meals, breakfast and lunch, one per day, well, one breakfast and one lunch per student per day will be free temporarily until this funding, which was budgeted by the state of Connecticut during their budgetary process, runs out. So we will be communicating. We have to communicate 30 days prior to the expiration of this funds so that everybody's well aware that they are going to need to start paying or brown bagging lunches. Are there any questions that anyone may have on the food savings?
I don't have a question, but just since we do have a new board member, we kind of went through this as part of the fund. I think as part of a policy update was a couple months ago. We talked about how the rectifying accounts when people were in arrears and.
Yeah, so charging meals, yes.
So just so you're tethered, so you're read into this, we all kind of got a deep dive on it, but nobody's going to walk away hungry. Nobody's going to get refused food here. There's a number of mechanisms that the administration employs to make sure that we make sure that kids get something to eat and there's no stigma attached to it or anything of that nature. And then at the end of the day, to resolve the finances in the most amenable way that, again, there's a number of mechanisms to make that happen that don't involve embarrassing anybody and certainly involve making sure that the kids get something to eat. So it's a pretty well thought out and pretty extensive process to make sure that we don't have those problems. Even in light of the fact that the free meals end in November.
Or there.
Yeah, or thereabouts, yeah.
Okay, so moving on to 9.1D. So to finish the year, I had to do some transfers to make sure that object codes or lines in the budget that were overextended are made whole. You are looking at 29 transfers here that total $441,164.42. Of that, the majority of it is any available salary lines. So if there's money, positive balance in the salary lines, they're all moved up to one line called the unallocated personnel line. So that was the majority of the transfers. So I just didn't want anyone to have a heart attack here. So that's basically what that is all about. And this, if I will answer any questions that anyone has, but this will need board motion on that. So are there any questions to the transfers as being presented?
I should use the word routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Okay, very good.
Okay, are there any questions about the transfers? Okay, that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfers as presented totaling $441,164.42.
So moved.
Mike, is there a second?
Second.
Oh, Gabe beat you.
I'll give it to Sue.
All right, Gabe gave it to Sue. All right.
Thank you.
Make Patricia's life just a little more difficult. Got it. All right, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Even anything else?
That's it for me.
Great, thank you. All right, at this point, we'll move on to item 11, which is the committee reports. Given that none of the committees that have met that I'm aware of since the last meeting, instead of going around each individual committee, what I'll do is just open up if there's any committee members or committee chairs or that feel like there's or leads that there's something they need to address in the meeting, certainly open it up for that by exception. So is there any of the committee leaders that feel like they need to address anything?
I'd like to say one thing
Go ahead,
on
Mike.
behalf of the facilities subcommittee. Last year, late in the season, I sent out a list of pending maintenance actions that are needed to the facility. I'd like for the members of the facilities team to just go through that list, familiarize yourself with it. I think one of the things we're going to want to talk about is refreshing that list and making sure that it's up to date. It's been, I believe, over a decade since that list has been generated. So we want to make sure that our look ahead is as accurate as it can be for those things that we're anticipating, because that's really the purpose of that list is it gives us an opportunity to see what's coming. The other thing that I wanted to ask is there was in one of the emails that we received recently from Superintendent McNamara mentioned the well for the 3 athletic fields. Can you give us an update? And it falls under the facility subcommittee. I figured I'd ask.
I can tell you the work has not been done yet.
Okay.
It's slated to be done Thursday, I believe. So basically the process that's going to be done to this well to try to infuse and enhance and expand the veins, for lack of a better term. I think Michael said it's got a fairly high success rate. It's got like an 80 to 90% success rate. So we are cautiously optimistic that this will benefit us. I think this is an example of it's a potential result of 2 things. Number one, it's an old well. And then coupled with what we've been dealing with, well, although today you wouldn't realize it, but coupled with what we've been dealing with across the state for the past couple of months, which is a significant drought, probably one of the biggest droughts that we've had in several years. So that is a project that needs to get done, because the alternative to not doing the project of trying it, basically what they do is they take high pressure water and they inject it into the existing well, right? And that high pressure water hopefully will then go into the water tables, bedrock, whatever, and then it basically just tries to go into other areas where we'll get more water sources from. Again, we're optimistic that it's going to work. I will certainly keep the board posted about that after Thursday. The alternative was wait until, I think it was November was the first availability that they had to actually dig a new well. Well, that would have, Dan's would not have liked that, because that would have, our fields would have been horrible. They would have gotten chewed up and not being able to be properly irrigated during the fall season. So it's certainly something that we're hoping that will be fruitful after it's done on Thursday.
Great. Thanks for the update.
Absolutely.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Benson Clark?
Yeah, hi. And mine are liaison reports. So East Con has a new executive director, which is great news for RHAM in the fact that it's Eric Pratulis, who was a school psychologist at RHAM and then served as RHAM's special ed director for a number of years. He's, if you recall him from his time at RHAM, he remains the same. He is very open. He just is kind of unoffendable. He's open. He's calm. He's reasoned. So he's settling in, and we have our first official meeting with him tomorrow. It's oftentimes after. Then, are there any questions on that before I jump to CABE?
I don't think so.
Okay, CABE had its summer leadership meeting this Thursday, and Superintendent McNamara was in attendance, and Carrie Ferlina was in attendance. There's a very large focus, as you can imagine, on safety and relevant matters. That was really the core of the program, and even our breakout groups, where sometimes we were supposed to be discussing other things, got back to that. So it's clear that that's on everybody's high priority. Then I just want to mention, I believe that Jan sent out an invitation to everybody again for the November 2-day CABE conference that's held in Mystic. And I recommend that you attend and hope that you can. It's incredibly difficult for us to find time to have a retreat or to do any of that kind of work. And the beauty of the CABE conferences is we can have meals together and have lunch, and it's appropriate conversation, but it's also learning, what someone just learned about freedom of information, or they're excited to get handouts for the board. So I know right now, let me see, right now I think 6 people at least are attending. So hopefully more of you are able to attend, and please let Jan know that as soon as possible, because there is an early rate. The rate increases the longer you wait to register. That concludes my updates, Mike.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 12, the second round of public comment. Bear with me. Go through this one more time. Hebron, Andover, and Marlboro community engagement and attendance at Board of Education public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the Board of Education may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the Board of Education is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the Board of Education is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Is there anyone present that wishes to provide public comment? Okay, there's none physically present. Anybody online? Who do you have here?
Jessica Stewart.
Ms. Stewart? I'm sorry, maybe you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Jessica Stewart. I live at 6 Smith Farm Road in Amston. I have 2 new children entering RHAM this year. I'm actually a question for the superintendent on some clarification related to the launching into a healthy learning. If you could just give a little more. If you could just give a little more clarification on whether the Board of Ed is adopting the test mask go. I don't think I completely understood where RHAM was headed in that direction. That's actually an optional strategy that's been presented by DPH, OEC, and CSDE. So maybe there can be some clarification on whether that test mask go is being adopted by RHAM and that that's something that families going to have to follow. I bring it forward only because when you do read the test mask go strategy, parents will literally be testing their children for every mild symptom possible. And we are heading into fall, which for many families, teachers, children, parents like myself, it is allergy season. So to expect parents to be testing their kid for every minor sniffle and then asking them every time they test negative to continually wear a mask for 5 days until they test positive is, I think, a little bit over the top for one, and for two, we will end up with a ridiculous amount of false positives at some point. If you test yourself 3 times a day for 5 days, you're going to end up possibly with a positive test. So if there could just be some clarification on whether the district is adopting test mask go or there's something else that's going to be put out there. I don't think I fully understood where the district was going with this launching into healthy learning.
Is that the end of your comment?
That's
Ms.
it. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there's no one else online? Eric, we're good? Okay, thank you very much for that. Move on to item 13, which is the informational items. Colin, is there anything that you need to highlight on this?
There's really nothing to be highlighted. A lot of this is just internal meetings and committee meetings and professional developments that take place throughout the context of the school year. I'll continue to appraise board members about more public-facing events, is what I would say, in hopes that board members will be able to come and be a part of the great things that we're doing here as a school community.
Great. Is there any questions from the board about anything on the informational items? Okay. All right, at this point, we will be entertaining a motion to go into executive session to discussion concerning the security strategy in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 1-206, and as part of that motion to invite the superintendent to participate in that executive session. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Joe makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sue. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Judy.
I would just like to say that it's by invitation only, the executive session. And I say that because I inadvertently forwarded the executive session link to, I had a couple of people asking me about how to get online and I was multitasking.
Okay, so I think we can actually manage that from here, can't we? So that's fine. Thank you for notifying us,
Absolutely.
but we can manage it to make sure that no one that is inappropriately on the meeting digitally.
Absolutely, and I don't expect them to, but thank you.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for apprising us of that. All right, if there's no other discussion, yes.
I'd have to get Heather into it. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. So Heather, just so you're aware, what ends up happening is when we have these meetings and they're hybrid, we do two separate links. One is publicly disseminated, one is privately disseminated, so that we can only just have the executive group participate. What's the best method to communicate that link to you so that you can join? Is there an email address we could use or something?
Yes, there is.
Why don't you go ahead and give it? Eric's here. He can give that to it.
You want to
Okay,
email it to me, or are you okay putting it in the
I can
chat?
put it, I can put it in the chat. That's easy enough.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Hearing none. That motion carries unanimously. We'll move to executive session.